How about that? Is there a sound? Let me know. Hmm. No sound? Hold on a second. I hate to do this again. No sound? Um, yeah. Okay, good. Oh, because I was about ready to delete this video and start it for another day. Okay. Yes. I'm Willy Bragg. How are you all doing today? I want to go give a shout out, as I said, to everybody that's here so far, and then that'll be Daniel, very sports highlights. How are you doing today? We have Max Sarjay. Good evening. How are you doing, Max? And where's everyone? I guess they'll show up eventually. So there is that. Want to apologize, as I was trying to say when I had no sound for a moment, that want to apologize for the chat line the other day. I didn't mean to, but I accidentally disabled the chat line, and but apparently I got that fixed. So I'm glad it was taken care of. So anyway, I want to talk about an ideological aspect of the MAGA Civil War. And this is not anything really new to be added to the discussion, but maybe more of a, I don't want to say analysis, but just I have said often when critiquing MAGA that there is no one size fit all. I mean, a red hat MAGA person could be of many different type of ideologies. On the left, we call these things multi-tendencies. Basically, for example, I'm a democratic socialist, and there are many aspects of school of thoughts. Some people are Marxists, some people are Christian socialists, some people are socialist feminists, some people are anarcho-syndicalists. You get the idea. And some people kind of hodgepodge and mix it all together. So, you got social democrats, you got, you got all kinds of factions within socialism that would define who you are individually as a socialist. And as an American socialist, I would say that the mainstream of my socialism, if you will, comes from Eugene Victor Debs. Not that my particular path towards socialism is the correct way. I'm not saying that, but I don't think it's a wrong way, but it's not the absolute correct way either. We all have different traditions that gets us to where we're at today. And that is my perspective as a democratic socialist in the United States. And by democratic socialism, I don't mean Democrat as in the duopoly, the one of the two major parties. Lowercase d when saying democratic socialism. So basically, on the right, you also have factions. Now, prior to MAGA, you had within, let's say, the Republican Party, you had a handful of factions. You had your basic mainstream of the Republican Party that would support the business class, the low taxes, I guess you can call them the fiscal hawks. That faction. You have the Christian conservatives or the Christian right. You have the defense, foreign policy conservatives, kind of more commonly known as neoconservatives today. This is the kind of things you'll have in the party, and some people kind of do a little bit of a mix as well. So, and you also have those factions within MAGA. The good bulk of MAGA, in spite of them claiming to hate George Bush or George W. Bush, really have that core ideology. So from that era, but they have a facelift called Trump. As you know, the mask of Trump has been put on the old mask of Bush and Cheney. So, and some people will be like, "You don't know what you're talking about." No, I do know what I'm talking about. I do. So, before we do get started, let's just have a little bit of levity. I think levity goes a long way. Not really related, but I just something I like to do occasionally. So this is an oldie but goodie. It was funny. I was like, you know what? Let me go ahead and share this on the Willy Bragg show. Here we go.
Sorry I'm white. Sorry I'm male. Sorry I'm white. Sorry I'm male. Sorry I'm white. I'm sorry I'm male. Why? Why am I a monster?
Okay, yeah, that was classic TJ Kirk, more commonly referred to as the Amazing Atheist. He did that, I think it was like in 2009, 2010 or something. And he was just kind of being silly. And just, you know, I thought it was kind of hilarious. So I decided to go share that with y'all. So anyway, yeah, getting back to what I was saying. Yeah, when it comes to this whole thing with MAGA, there's a civil war that's going on. And it's between the well, they all would tell you they're anti-war. Some of them are. A lot of them is just a nice little rhetoric, you know. It's just a nice little rhetoric. I'm anti-war, you know. It was easy to say when they were the opposition. When Biden was getting us deeper into the conflict between Russia and Ukraine, which was bullshit. You know, they were being correct, but for the wrong reasons. It was because their guy wasn't in power. I'm going to be contrarian. But were they really still the old? Were they still shedding the old neoconservatism that they claim to have done? It's the easiest thing to look back at the Iraq War and say, you know, gee, that was a mistake. You know, let's don't do that again. But what they were doing when it came to China, Taiwan, they wanted to beef it up. And they were, a lot of them were wanting a lot of warfare with China. So that's not really being pro-peace at that point, you know. And so, and then of course, when October 7th happened, a lot of that Bush Cheney, you know, rattle sabling started to take place again, and while at the same time pretending to be pro-peace, sort of like when MAGA claims that they're for free speech. Some are, many aren't. And, you know, they're claiming to be for free speech, except for people who protest on behalf of Palestinians. Then all of a sudden, what free speech? You know, no. We don't protect that kind of free speech. Any other kind of free speech, even the most horrific type of expression, which I don't think there's any boundaries. I think that all free speech should be protected, even speech I find the most objectionable and the most offended by. But the difference is I'm telling the truth. And again, I'm not saying that this is the case with all people on the right, that they're doing this for partisan reasons. You know, but you know, when Donald Trump claims he's against censorship and wants to put people in prison for burning the American flag, or sue Bill Maher because Bill Maher made a joke about him resembling an orangutan. Or what else? Supporting the anti-BDS law federally to go and put people in prisons for advocating boycotting of Israel, the BDS campaign, to criminalize that. That's not paying for free speech. So, but within the MAGA rabbit hole, the factionalism, you started to see it between Marjorie Taylor Greene and Laura Loomer. Now, it was festering before them, and I was commenting about it before that. But at the same time, they're having their the girls are fighting, folks, and I'm always okay with a fight, especially as people as vile as Laura Loomer and Marjorie Taylor Greene, which I have no love for either one of them. So I'll show you this tweet here. And here she says, this is what I've been this is why I've been calling Marjorie Taylor Greene. Excuse me. Yeah, hold on a second. Okay. Sorry about that. This is why I've been calling her Marjorie Taylor Greene for years. The T stands for traitors. And what in the world is being said by Marjorie Taylor Greene that's upsetting that little Florida jigsaw movie caricature referring to Laura Loomer?
On the nightly news on Fox News that tell you what, 6 months in, see, and here we are turning back on the campaign promises, and we bombed Iran on behalf of Israel. Yes, it was on behalf of Israel. We're entering a nuclear war, the World War III, because the entire world is going to erupt. And you want to know the people that are cheering it on right now? Their tune is going to drastically change the minute we start seeing flag draped coffins on the nightly news, on Fox News that brainwashes all the baby boomers, and on CNN that brainwashes all the Democrat baby boomers. And that is exactly how this is going to go down. And I'll tell you what,
I don't take issue with what she just said there. I despise Marjorie Taylor Greene. I absolutely despise every aspect of Marjorie Taylor Greene. I not only is she cartoonishly evil, she's stupid, and she's a very trashy person. Having that said, man, the stop clock gives the right time twice a day. It does, and the right time twice a day does meaning, well, we're fighting this war of Iran, which is insane to begin with. But a lot of these people on the far right in this country, they've been wanting a war with Iran for many years. So you're seeing a rift between Marjorie Taylor Greene and Laura Loomer. Now, thing about it is, with this war that's going on, thing about Marjorie Taylor Greene is that what is she ideologically? Marjorie Taylor Greene, and I'm not going to try to go, she's a fucking racist, which she is. She's a fucking anti-Semite. I'm not going with that, even though she is. She stinks. But what she also is a paleoconservative. And Laura Loomer is a neoconservative. They both can, Laura Loomer can deny that she's a neoconservative all she wants, because hardly anyone who's a neoconservative will admit that they're a neoconservative, something that they would never ever want to admit. And so what is the difference between a paleoconservative and a neoconservative? Probably on most things domestically, not a hell of a lot, you know. A paleoconservative roughly would be, a typical Republican conservative type who's basically protectionist on the economy and wants the U.S. to stay out of other people's affairs. And that's kind of the better side of their ideology. And this is not to say that everybody who's a paleoconservative are the same ideologically. There's nuance and differences, but a paleoconservative, a lot of them are not, and if they're not racist, they tend to be racially not so sensitive, or, and I'm not going to say that applies to everyone, but again, they're very conservative across the board, but they happen to be correct on foreign policy, non-interventionism, and they're more or less correct on trade issues. Need more protectionism. A neoconservative is for free trade. A neoconservative never met a war that they didn't like. And that is basically the difference. Now, where did the neoconservatives come from? Now, unfortunately, there are people out there that they will go and they'll, I'm talking about bad faith actors that they will try to go and make neoconservatism sound Jewish. And most neoconservatives are not Jewish. I mean, and not that I want to go into identity politics, but, most Jewish people are on the left. But here's the thing about neoconservatism: why it gets the condemnation it gets. A lot of it deservingly, and some of it, a little too conspiratorial for me. The origins of it came from the Trotskyist movement in the 1930s in the United States. The followers of Leon Trotsky in the United States, basically, in the 1920s, a lot of them left the Communist Party, USA, because of the Stalin-Trotsky conflict in the Soviet Union. And so a bunch of Trotskyists founded an organization called the Workers' Party, one of many workers' parties that came into existence. This is one facet of it. They were going nowhere real quick, and they needed to go somewhere other than the Communist Party. And the Communist Party's chief competitor in the 1930s were the Socialist Party of America. What's the Socialist Party of America? The party of Eugene Debs and Norman Thomas. And because the Socialist Party were not supporters of the Soviet Union, meaning that they did not support Stalin, a lot of them ended up going inside the Socialist Party of America. And after the 1936 election, a lot of these Trotskyists, a lot of them were purged. A lot of them were, left the organization, and they took with them large sections of the Young People's Socialist League at the time, where it was a shell of itself for a few years. And 1937 founded the Socialist Workers' Party, which is one of the first, large Trotskyist organizations. Don't know how relevant they are today, but they still exist. And there was a split in 1940 between, I don't know the details, but it was dealing with the Soviet Hitler Pact, Stalin Hitler Pact. A group led by Max Shachtman left, and they founded a group called the Independent Socialist League. It's leading to where we're going to discuss Laura Loomer and Marjorie Taylor Greene, by the way. The Independent Socialist League was a softer version of old-style Orthodox Trotskyism. On the positive side, they came up with this ideological view called Third Camp Internationalism, which a lot of democratic socialists ended up embracing later on. Not all of them, but significant, and meaning that they neither supported the Soviet Union nor supported the United States. That they believed that there was in a very positive sense, a third way. And so, and one can see examples of third camp internationalism existing in places like Yugoslavia under Field Marshal Tito, for example, that sort of thing. So, but anyway, getting back to what I was saying, that the Independent Socialist League, who were involved with the labor movement, involved with civil rights, involved with all kinds of things that other competing socialists were involved with. I remember the late David McReynolds saying in 1951, when he joined the Socialist Party of America, that there was not a whole lot of organizations compared to what you see today. Because back then, what existed? You had the Socialist Party of America, you had the Social Democratic Federation, you had the Communist Party USA, you had the Independent Socialist League, you had the IWW, the Industrial Workers of the World, you had the Socialist Labor Party, you had the Jewish Labor Bund. That was pretty much it across the spectrum of what would describe as American socialism. And of course, COINTELPRO did what they did later on, creating splits and counter splits, yada, 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 And now we got an alphabet soup of organizations consisting of 7 people claiming that they're the vanguard of whatever worker struggle that they're going to bring about a workers' utopia. So, anyway, getting back to the ISL. ISL went and decided to join up with the Socialist Party when the Socialist Party and the Social Democratic Federation merged in 1956 and 1957. The ISL came in there. So the old guard of the Socialist Party were a little worried because, they would perceive as too far left. Strangely enough, the far left ISL came in there and became the right wing of the Socialist Party several years later, supporting the Vietnam War, having a fanatical support for Zionism, which a lot of left-wing organizations were Zionists in their own way back then. But that was a different time, folks. What happened was that there was a 3-way split in 1972. The Socialist Party of America, which was called the Social Democratic Federation, split into the Social Democrats USA, Democratic Socialists of America as we know it today, and the Socialist Party USA. A lot of the people from the Social Democrats USA, which was the most right wing out of the split, which consisted of a lot of the old line trots, ended up working in the Reagan administration. And they inspire people who does not have any relations or admiration for the left. People such as Ben Shapiro, who's not a left wing on a damn thing, is a neoconservative. A neoconservative is, a total bitch like Laura Loomer, and your Sean Hannity, the late Rush Limbaugh, Mark Levin, all of those motherfuckers, neocons. Glenn Beck, list goes on. Well, the thing about it is that with the neoconservative movement, it was just kind of like they had nowhere to go during the Cold War. And so with nowhere to go, people thought that the neoconservatives was a thing of the past. Well, what happened later on was they had during the George W. Bush years, they came back together. And a lot of them were in the Bush administrations, and even ways that they weren't in during the Reagan years and the first George Herbert Walker Bush presidency. And they were there. They caused a lot of havoc with the way that the response was to 9/11. Our surveillance state is a thing today because of the neocons under George W. Bush. we're always on the verge of World War III because of the neocons, and all that. And again, Laura Loomer has no history with the left, but she is by all measures a neocon. The term itself came into being in the 1970s by the late Michael Harrington of DSA when he was referring to some of these fanatical anti-communist style leftists that referred to them as the new conservatives, the neoconservatives. Again, most people don't like to be called neoconservative. You call Republican a neoconservative, they'll come out fighting because they just what it consists of. But the point is that Marjorie Taylor Greene is a paleoconservative, and Laura Loomer is a neoconservative. I'm going to play you this segment here from. She's on Alex Jones, and the language is that of a neoconservative. Alex Jones is not a neoconservative. Alex Jones will be closer to a paleoconservative, but we'll let them talk. Okay, give me a second here.
I just wish you guys would stop fighting. It's no secret that Trump has had Tucker running around as an unofficial ambassador, kind of. And with Steve Witkoff, he loves Steve Witkoff. He legitimately thinks these wars are dangerous. He's been anti-war.
Then I wish that Tucker would give President Trump the benefit of the doubt. If Tucker Carlson really apologized and he doesn't hate Trump like he said in his text messages that were released in the Dominion lawsuit when he said Trump was terrible, he said he hates Trump and he called Trump a demonic force. If he truly has had a change of heart and he doesn't hate Trump anymore and he doesn't think he's a demonic force, then he should know that we voted for President Trump because President Trump is the master of the art of the deal.
In those same text messages, he says nice things. He's been clear that he gets emotional about things.
Okay, then people say things they don't mean. But the point is I voted for President Trump because I trust President Trump. And I trust President Trump to handle the conflict between Israel and Iran in a way that is not going to drag us into World War III. I went to so many of President Trump's campaign events. I covered a lot of the rallies. I traveled with the president on the campaign trail several times on his airplane.
Laura, I can tell you,
all I'm going to say is that every single speech that I saw President Trump give, he said, we can't let Iran have a nuclear weapon and we have to cool down the state of the world because we are on the brink of World War III.
Okay, with this kind of rhetoric, let me just state this, what's obvious. What Laura Loomer's dumbass doesn't realize is that the reason we're in a situation with Iran is because they don't want. They were trying to appease the neoconservatives and the evangelicals. That's what they were trying to do. They were trying to do that sort of thing, and so basically, at the end of the day, what's happened is that it created the agreement between Iran. The agreement between Iran and the United States was working. It was working. And because he wanted to stick it to Obama, he ended up having that treaty withdrawn. He ended up with the treaty being withdrawn and all of that. And so right now we're facing that situation. And because of that, he's got a lot of the people who are like pro-war getting all hot and bothered again, the way they were in the year 2002, 2003. And you got people like Dave Smith, who's like, absolutely not. We should not be doing this. And he's turned against Trump. He's calling for Trump to be impeached, which I favor Trump being impeached. He needs to be impeached, democratically speaking, removed from office. So the neoconservatives are endangering humanity with the bullshit that they're doing. And once again, I hate to even bring this up because, but the very people who talks about identity politics from their conservative viewpoint don't want to ever talk about race, don't want to ever talk about, and when it comes to LGBTQ, they want to demonize them, and they're obsessed with immigrants and claim that all these groups are all about victimhood, are the first people to start using the race card or the anti-Semite card when you use the term neoconservative. And so, I'm just so sick and tired of them having it both ways. They claim to be for free speech, then they support cancel culture. Nobody ever calls them out on cancel culture or being pro-censorship. They accuse the left of being divisive, always talking about race, always talking about the gender, always talking about, the things that makes me feel uncomfortable. Well, what do? They do the same thing from their perspective. I mean, I know defender of Obama, but when you obsess over Obama being black and being supposedly from the country of Kenya and supposedly being Muslim, that's identity politics from their perspective in the most toxic of ways. So, anyway, I just needed to call that out. And Candace Owens, or she's sounding better on foreign policy. I don't think she's anti-Semitic like people claim she is. But I do judge her friendship with Kanye West. I mean, Kanye can fuck himself. But the thing about it is, I don't like Tucker Carlson, but good for him for making mincemeat out of Ted Cruz last week. It comes down to that. And so, we don't want World War III, but some very nasty people are damn determined to get us into every new war imaginable. And neoconservatives are found in the Democratic Party too. Don't get it twisted. And I'm talking about prior to Trump. I mean, after Trump's coming in there, having Bill Kristol and company there. But I'm talking about your Hillary Clintons, your late Joe Liebermans. I consider Joe Biden a neocon. I consider Kamala Harris a neocon. I consider, most establishment Democrats as neocons in their own way. The difference between the neocons and the Democratic Party and the neocons and the Republican Party is that the neocons and the Republican Party will wave the Bible and beat you down with it. The neocons in the Democratic Party fly the rainbow flag and they'll beat you down with a broccoli stalk. But, that's basically what I'm saying right there. So that's basically roughly what I want to say. Kind of had it out of my chest a little bit. And I'll talk to everybody here on the chat line. I have to go very, very quickly. So we have here on the chat line, I saw Earl Rural. How are you doing today? And Warren, oh shit! I thought this was tomorrow. Yeah, no, I got one plan for tomorrow, Warren. Don't worry, I got a live stream plan for tomorrow. Right, we had Chuck Intergalactic UFO Show, and he says, "Holy guacamole, Earth is still here." I mean, of course, is why would it be? Willy, what year is it? I felt like I'm coming back to the year 2003. If that means anything. Stephanie says, "Hi, Willy," and I am saying right back to Stephanie, "Hey." So we have Desert Mantis, Paleocon, Neocon, both are still cons. Yep, and they're conning America. Oh yeah, from Family Guy. Do we have anything? Any new persons here that I don't want to miss out on? I tried to have everybody covered that's on the chat line. And Warren, the chat line's working. Isn't that wonderful? So anyway, I'm going to go right now. So I just wanted to talk about that. I'll be back tomorrow, hopefully, unless I'm too tired. Of course, you'll see the time change if that happens. You always be prepared for that. But anyway, if you like what you heard, please press like and comment. Comment any way you disagree with what I have to say. We'll have a conversation. As a First Amendment absolutist, it's my duty to inform you to create your own platform and utilize it because we're the muckrakers of our time. And remember to subscribe to the Willy Bragg Show on all my platforms and always reject corporate media. Until next time, folks, remember, free and pardon Ed Snowden, free Palestine, free healthcare for all, and the preservation of free speech absolutism. Until next time, folks. Until the very next time. And I'm going to add 2 people to this. Fuck Marjorie Taylor Greene and fuck Laura Loomer. And I don't mean literally. I definitely don't mean literally. They're neither of them are my type. But anyway, you catch my drift. Y'all take care. I'll see y'all later. Bye-bye.